In this video, I'll show you the best 10-day South Island itinerary that includes both the TranzAlpine train and Milford Sound. But here's the big question: how do you fit these iconic experiences into one loop without endless driving or missing out Queenstown, Mount Cook or other must-dos? So let's get into it. So let's have a look at the overview map on locations. So we have one night in Christchurch, we have one night in Punakaiki on the west coast, we have one night with this itinerary in Franz Joseph, we have 2 nights either in Wanaka or Queenstown, we have 2 nights in Anau, Fiordland, and we have 2 nights in the Mount Cook Lake Tekapo region before we head back to Christchurch. By the way, this is one of the 5 South Island itineraries I covered in a previous video. In this video, I go into much more detail about each individual day. So let's get started here in Christchurch. You will arrive at the airport here, which is located on the western side of the city. It's only about a 15 minutes ride into the city. I would recommend to use an Uber or another transfer service to get into the city. I would also recommend to stay close in the CBD, so on the eastern side of the Heckley Park, of the Botanical Gardens. You can see here on the map on the left-hand side. This is a beautiful part, especially when you arrive for the first night. There's a couple of accommodation places I would suggest. One of them is the 𝗟𝗏𝗃 bed and breakfast. The other one is the Mayfair Hotel, or a bit more fancy is the George Hotel. They're all located here in the walking distance in the central CBD. By the way, I've done a dedicated video on Christchurch. Check it out in the description box below. So the next morning you get a transfer to the Eddington railway station, which is Christchurch only railway station. You can see here the railway lines already, and the train, the TranzAlpine train, goes at 8:15 in the morning, so you want to be there at least half an hour before. You will check in your main luggage and you only take hand luggage into the carriage, and then heading out towards the western side of the South Island, you more or less follow the main route here, going through Sheffield and towards Springfield. You have the 𝗦𝗧𝗂𝗶𝗴 River here on the right hand side, but after Sheffield you can see that the track is actually heading off to the north, and that's where really it gets scenic and you go right into the heart of the Southern Alps. The Southern Alps, by the way, are really the backbone of the South Island. They go all the way from the northern part right down to the Fiordland National Park. But so you continue here with the train and it catches up at the 𝗦𝗧𝗂𝗶𝗴 bridge here over the river. The 𝗬𝗏𝗃 village is the key base here for the 𝗬𝗏𝗃 National Park. You would have about 10 to 15 minute stops. You can kind of walk around a little bit and enjoy the scenery, but there's no walking options available. I will talk about that in a minute, what kind of other options you have to explore this a bit more flexible and a bit more independent. So you continue over and going through the famous Otira tunnel. It's about 8.5 kilometers. So basically after the village, after 𝗬𝗏𝗃 village, it goes into the tunnel and out you go on the other side into the rainforest of the west coast. So we have rainforest on the western side of the Southern Alps, and we have dry barren country here on the eastern side. So the train will arrive into Greymouth here on the west coast around about 1:15, 1:30 p.m. It all depends a little bit on timing in respect of the weather conditions and the track conditions. If you find this video helpful, please hit the subscribe button below to stay in touch for more helpful travel videos to come. Plus, put any comments or questions into the box below. I'm happy to help you. So we talked about the TranzAlpine train over to Greymouth. Now, if you want to do the same route, you might ask, can I do the rental car? Yes, you can. And there are two distinct advantages. So the first one is, if you start from Christchurch, you pick up the rental car and you be able to go through that area and you can stop. You're much more flexible, like here, Castle Hill. It's a conservation reserve. It's really beautiful. By the way, I will put the Google link for this map into the description box below as well, so you can follow the route. So you're much more flexible. You can stop. There are so many photo stops along the way, so that is obviously a key advantage. Also in the 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗃 village, you can go up to the Punch Bowl Falls. They're here. Again, you can follow that with a Google link, so it's lots of places. And then you have the 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗃 outlook, etc., etc. So this is one advantage. You can stop as you want. The other advantage is actually in Greymouth, where you pick up a rental car if you go with a train. There are only the large rental car companies there. So that means 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗃, budget, Hertz, etc. So the cost is actually higher. So you have to be prepared. I'll put a link into the description box below to the Drive Now rental car website, and it's quite clear the differences can be quite stunning actually if you pick it up in Greymouth or if you pick up the rental car in Christchurch. So keep that in mind. Okay, let's assume that you would arrive with a train in Greymouth and you want to pick up a rental car here in Greymouth. An insider tip, you really need to pre-book the rental car in the peak season, summer season. You cannot arrive just to expect the rental car to be there. It's a very small depot, so 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗃, budget, Hertz, etc. only have a number of vehicles available, so you need to pre-book. Anyway, after you pick up the car, you head further north towards Punakaiki, and we have you for one night. It's a lovely drive along the Tasman Sea facing towards Australia, and you would arrive around about in Punakaiki 2:30, 3 o'clock if the train is on time. Keep in mind that Punakaiki does not have a supermarket, so if you want to purchase any food, anything like that, do that in Greymouth. So if you arrive, you obviously want to check out the Pancake Rocks. That's one side. The other side I recommend is the Pororari River track. That is quite gorgeous. And on the northern side, a little bit further, so there's the Truman track, which is actually, there's a little car park here on the main road. You can walk down to the Truman track. So that's another stunning site for that afternoon. If you really want to explore more here off that west coast, you could also continue to 𝗧𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃 for the afternoon, though it will be quite a drive going up there and back to Punakaiki. There's a lovely walkway to 𝗧𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃, the seal colony, so that's maybe one suggestion too. But generally, my recommendation would be to hang around in Punakaiki and stay one night. To help you with your travel planning, you can download my free PDF South Island travel planning sheet in the description box below, or you can use my custom GPT travel planner, which is based on my year-long experience with designing travel itineraries. Try it out, you'll be amazed at the ease of use as well as on the results you'll get. So on your day 3, you head south again and you're traveling right down here to Franz Josef. It's not too bad of a drive, it's about, let's say, 3.5 hours or so, but there are plenty of places you want to drop in and check it out. There's one historic hotel I really like. It's the Kumara Hotel. You have, before that, you have near Greymouth, you have Shandytown, which is a historic park. That's maybe something you want to consider. I also like that Goldsboro area. This is an old gold mining area, and you can actually head from Kumara. You see this little road here? It's an unsealed road, but perfectly fine to drive. There's a couple of tunnel terrace walks, old Chinese gold mines actually. So if you're interested in that, you could do a little detour, and before you head back to the main road, here is the Arahura Valley. For your information, this Arahura Valley is actually the main source of greenstone, of jade, and 𝗥𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃 especially is famous for the jade industry, for jade jewelry, so you might want to purchase something. But otherwise you could go inland again. There's Lake Canary, towards Lake Canary, which is over here, that lake, but it takes a little bit more time, so you just want to see how you go with your time budget. Another famous spot is the 𝗥𝗃𝗃𝗃 Gorge. It's famous for its beautifully blue color. It's about 30 minutes drive from 𝗥𝗃𝗃𝗃, so if you have enough time, if you have a lovely day, that's maybe something you want to consider. There's also, here's another insider tip, here's actually a helicopter company as well. It's called Precision Helicopters, and they do amazing trips into the Southern Alps. They're actually, in my opinion, better than the helicopter flights in Franz Josef and Fox glaciers, so you might want to consider that. So that's all 𝗥𝗃𝗃𝗃 Gorge. So we better speed up here. I'm realizing I'm talking a little bit too much, but there's so much to see. So from 𝗥𝗃𝗃𝗃, continue further south, and here my suggestion is to stop at Ross. There are some famous gold mining fields. They had a major gold rush in 1860s, 1880s. So that's a cool little spot. I mean, it's a tiny village. There's also a pub if you're really interested to go local, have a look there. Then you continue south on SH6. It's just a stunning drive. There's stops all the way. Lake Ēnthie, there's actually a little picnic stop. You could bring your lunch and have something to eat. Then you continue towards 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗃. Again, it's a tiny little settlement, but you basically head towards Wataroa. Again, Wataroa is a tiny little place. There's a famous photo gallery you might want to check out, so be aware of that. 𝗨𝗏𝗃𝗃, as well as Wataroa is famous for the white heron colony tours. So these white heron colony tourists go here into the Okarito Lagoon area, so with a jet boat, so you might want to consider that. They do, I think, 2 or 3 trips a day, so something you need to keep in mind. And then you would arrive in the afternoon. You would have spent quite a bit of time during the day stopping here and there. You would arrive in Franz Josef and you have one night. So Franz Josef Glacier is obviously famous for the glacier tours. You can do, in the morning, you can do a heli hiking trip. Depending on the weather, it's always weather conditions if the helicopters can fly or not. But there's a number of really cool walks as well. You can see the glaciers and you can see Mount Cook, Mount Tasman in the background. Or another really important site, and one of my favorites is actually here, the Okarito Lagoon. There's also a kayaking trip into the lagoon. It's just stunning going through the natural environment there, beautiful bird life, wildlife. So these are the 2 things I would suggest. Otherwise, you need to calculate about 4 to 5 hour drive heading down to Wanaka. So I would suggest to depart not later than midday. You're going through Fox Glacier. If you have some time left, there's Lake Methven here just outside town, about 10 minutes away. But otherwise, continue south. There are plenty of stops you can check out. You drive an hour or half an hour or whatever, then you stop, do a walk. Like Lake Paringa here is another cool place, but here are some spots that are very special. It's the Monroe Beach Walk. Keep in mind you need a little bit more time for that one because it's kind of like an hour or so, 1.5 hours. Or you can easily stop here at Chip Creek, which is a lovely walk on the beach actually, and there's also a public toilet which is handy. So then you continue here. There's basically no village except Haast. So Haast is the only place where you can get some food as well as you can get petrol if you need. So think about that, always keep that in mind. That west coast is really sparsely populated, so you need to be a little bit prepared. This is a stunning drive up the Haast Valley, and you're now heading towards the Haast Pass, which is actually quite a low pass here going over the Southern Alps. But once you heading through Haast, you basically go into a totally different environment again over the Southern Alps. West coast, lush green, eastern side is very dry. You have Lake Wanaka here, Lake 𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗃, this place here called the Nik. That's a beautiful site too. Again, I mean, there's so many photo stops. You can simply, really, it depends on the day. But here's one key thing. Once you arrive in that Queenstown, Wanaka region, personally, I prefer Wanaka. It's a little bit more laid back than Queenstown. Queenstown is here, it's full on. For this itinerary, probably also with a driving distance, my suggestion would be to stay in Wanaka. It's about an hour's less driving. The other thing you could do is to go to Cromwell. Here is one of my favorite places, but Wanaka is pretty good, so have 2 nights in Wanaka. Again, I've done a dedicated video on what you can do, so I don't want to go into too much in this video, but it's a lot to do with nature. There's the Punakaiki River going up there. We have the Mount Aspiring National Park. We have the food and wine tours. So there's history there, so there's a lot to explore. You want to head down to Anau, which is the fjord region, and as you can see, we actually going through the Catriona Road. This is New Zealand's highest road, actually. It's higher than any of the passes. It's about 1,200 meters high. It's about 3,700 or 800 feet. But this is, if you have a beautiful day, really do that drive. It's stunning. There's some viewpoints along the way. You can also pop into Arrowtown, which is a historic village here that is gorgeous to check out, or you could go even into Queenstown. Keep in mind, Queenstown is a very busy place and it's often hard to get a car park. So, but for all means, you know, check it out and get your Queenstown fix. The main road goes on directly along the lake, and you head down towards Five River. Here's a little cafe you might want to check out on that corner, so if you need to have something to eat or so. But generally you head into Anau. The whole drive would be around about like 3.5 hours, 4 hours, depending how much stops you have along the way. But you have 2 nights in Anau, and Anau really is the hiking capital of New Zealand. It's really a place where you could easily spend another night if you're into that, but most people would go up here to Milford Sound, and Milford Sound is obviously one of the key attractions here in New Zealand. We have 14 fjords here along the coast, and Milford Sound is the only one which you can access by car, so it's a busy place. The 2 options you have, either car or go with a guided tour. I recommend to actually go with a local operator called Trips and Tramps. They're really good at small scale, and you get all the local knowledge and experience. And also what I recommend, what's one of my favorites actually, once you're in Milford, you can actually do a combo trip. Here you see the dotted line. This is part of the Milford track. So what you can do, you do with Trips and Tramps, you actually go with a water taxi in there and you walk up to the giant gate falls, the cave falls, and then that's about 3 hours. That you do that in the morning, and in the afternoon you do the cruise in Milford Sound. This is one of the best trips in New Zealand, and anybody interested in hiking or nature absolutely must do. All the transfers are provided from Anau, and this is it's an amazing day. So the other option for folks to see the beauty, scenery, etc., but less interested in the hiking part, so you can actually go in here to 𝗍𝗹𝗃𝗃 Sound. And I often ask that question in my job as a travel designer: hey, shall I do Milford Sound or 𝗍𝗹𝗃𝗃 Sound? If you're happy to basically sit all day long, in a way, first you go here with a boat over Lake Manapouri, then you be here at West Arm Manapouri, that's here, and then there's actually a private road going into 𝗍𝗹𝗃𝗃 Sound. So these are the 2 fjords you would be able to visit. So 2 nights, Anau. After that, you will have a kind of a longish drive. You have to go back the same way towards Queenstown, but then at Arrowtown you branch off and you go through Cromwell. It's a driving days, yes, it will be about 6 hours drive or so, but you can easily stop here. There's a beautiful place. I've done multiple road videos on that trip. So check them out because there's really so much to see. So in that Mount Cook Lake Tekapo area, you have actually a few options on where to stay. One option would be in a village called 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃. So 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃 is here. It's a good location for that day, for that itinerary. Having 2 nights, there's some accommodation, but it's not too far away from Mount Cook village, which is another hour or so, from 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃. That's one option. The other option is to go to Lake Tekapo, have 2 nights here, and Lake Tekapo is obviously famous for the lake, for the views, but also for stargazing. There's Mount John stargazing. It's a reserve, it's a World Heritage Reserve. But yeah, so either 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃 or Lake Tekapo, or you could even head all the way into Mount Cook village. But this is a very small village. Like everything, during the peak summer season, you will need to pre-book accommodation as well as tours sometimes. Because it's very busy and there are really limited facilities for travelers. So you have 2 nights in this area. You can spend 1 full day exploring that. Mount Cook area, I've done a couple of videos on that. The Tasman Glacier view is one of my favorites. The Hooker Valley is obviously a great one. There's also another Muller's Hut, which is around here, but it's a much tougher one. So you need to be really aware about your fitness level. Also, always check the weather conditions and change in a matter of an hour or half an hour even. So just be very much aware. You can do scenic flights, you can do heli hiking. So there's lots to do in that region. So 2 nights in that area, and then pretty much you would travel back to Christchurch. Now it depends a little bit on when your flight departure is. If you can afford time-wise another night in Christchurch, then my suggestion would be to actually do the inland scenic route, which is basically here. So you're going through from Tekapo, let's say, you're going through 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃, and it's a beautiful drive. It's southern Canterbury, it's called Geraldine. It's famous for its beautiful Barker jam, so stop in there, and then you go through the Rangitata River area. You go towards Mount Somers. There's a little forest park actually, and that's lovely walks. We have national parks and we have forest parks in New Zealand. And the forest parks are obviously underestimated, but they are really nice often, so keep an eye on that. And here you go over the Rakaia River Bridge, which is also a stunning sight. There's a little walk there too, but yeah, you work your way through 𝗥𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃 scenic route here, which is much more scenic than on this State Highway 1 here, and you make your way back to Christchurch. And again, if you have an afternoon or evening flight, I would suggest to go straight to the airport, and then of course you have to use the State Highway 1. So here you have it, a workable 10-day South Island self-drive itinerary with the TranzAlpine train journey included. Download my free sample itinerary in the description box below, or use my custom ChatGPT travel planner to get you started in minutes. Thanks very much for watching. See you in the next video.